Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our group decided to choose West Orientalist, which is John Wansbrough. My name is Siti Nufitra binti Muhammad Rafi. My matric number 1201835.
My name is Nur Ala Atira binti Muhammad Rusdi. My matric number 1201845.
My name is Nur Shazwani binti Mat Sabran. My matric number 1201847.
John Wansbrough is John Edward Wansbrough. John Wansbrough was born in 19 February 1928 at Peoria, Illinois in United States of America, and he was an American historian. He was died in 10 June 2002 at Montage de Quercy at France.
Now, we move to background of John Wansbrough. John Wansbrough is the Lecce School of Oriental and African Studies, which is SOAS University of London. John Wansbrough also completed his study at Harvard University. Among John Wansbrough's students, which is Andre Rippon, Norman Calder, Patricia Crone, and also Michael Cook.
Next is about agreement on the Al-Quran. Wansbrough argued that the Al-Quran became a source for biography, exegesis, jurisprudence, and grammar around the 2nd or 3rd century in Abbasid Iraq, not the 1st century Hijaz, Western Arabia, as traditionally dated and located. Specifically, Wansbrough thinks it must have been complete by Ibn Hisham around the time he composed his Sirah of Muhammad because of the preponderance of Quran-based historicized narrative theory. Wansbrough thought evidence for the 17th century Hijaz as the location of the Islamic origins was bereft of archaeological witness and hardly attested in pro-Islamic Arabic or external sources, but instead on its historiographical existence almost entirely to the creative endeavor of Muslim and Orientalist scholarship. Next, Wansbrough argued that variants of Quranic texts are so minor that they are not recollection of ancient texts that different from the Usmanic text, but the outcome of exegesis. Variance is the form of multiple versions of the same story within the text of the Quran, are present in such quantity that they rule out the theory of an original text, or even that of a composite edition produced by deliberations in committee, and also that classical Arabic was developed later than the colloquial form, contemporaneously with the codification of the Quran.
Next is the work of John Wansbrough. The first one is Quranic Studies, Sources and Method of Scriptural Interpretation. This book originally published in 1977, Quranic Studies present an in-depth textual exegesis of the Quran based on form analysis, noting the persistent use of monotheistic imagery stemming from Judeo-Christian sources. He interpreted the rise of Islam as the development of what was originally a Judeo-Christian sect. As this sect evolves and differentiated itself from its Judeo-Christian roots, the Quran was evolved and was continuously in flux for over a century. Wansbrough concluded that the canonization of the text that we today call the Quran and even the emergence of the concept of Islam probably did not occur till the end of the 8th century, more than 150 years after the death of Muhammad. Although his works remain controversial to this day, his fresh insight and approach to the study of Islam continue to inspire scholars. This new edition contains a valuable assessment on Wansbrough's contribution and many useful textual notes and translation by Andrew Rippon, which is Professor of History, University of Victoria. The second one is the sectarian milieu content and composition of Islamic salvation history. In the sectarian milieu, Wansbrough analyzed earlier Islamic historiography historiography, or rather the interpretive myth underlying this historiography as a late manifestation of Old Testament salvation history. Continuance themes that he treated in a previous work, Quranic Study, Wansbrough argued that the traditional biography of Muhammad, which is Arabic Sirah and Maghazi, are best understood not as historical documents that attest to what really happened, but as literary texts written more than 100 years after the fact and heavily influenced by Jewish and to a lesser extent Christian and interconfessional polemics. The last one is lingua franca in the Mediterranean. Based on texts of Cansari provenance, its aim is the identification of linguistic subsystems that affected and informed the major channel of international relation. The standard procedure of context and exchange generated a format that facilitated interlingual transfer of concepts and terms. Lingua franca refers to the several natural languages that serve as vehicle in the transfer, but also to the format itself.
In conclusion, John Wansbrough is one of the observers of the Quran, and the research done has a Jewish-Christian bias. There is evidence that the thought that was hedged in contrary to that observed of the Quran in the West itself, and on the other hand, it is also contrary to the belief of Muslims. It is beyond doubt that Wansbrough theory did give an impact, shed a novel spot and making a new path in the Quranic studies. His conclusion is however not being accepted universally, and in fact, it probably reached the outer realms of possibility and plausibility. Some of his evidence has been argued scholarly by academicians who regarded his argument as not absolutely convincing. Questions posed by Donner, John Ball, and others need more critical analysis in order to examine the theory suggested by Wansbrough. That's all from us. Thank you.